Hello, everyone. Welcome back to St. Louis Teens and our features of Voices of Justice from Ferguson to Minneapolis. Today we have with us Sanchita Sen, who is a global health and sociology student at Northwestern University. Sanchita is calling on the South Asian community to come in solidarity during these difficult times to seek peace and justice. Sanchita, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what motivated you to study global health and sociology?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. Um, so I'm from St. Louis, and I'm a rising senior at Northwestern University, and I'm majoring in global health and sociology. So initially, I am pre-med still currently, but I decided to not really major in STEM courses, particularly because I'm really interested in social justice as well as how different communities in our country and in the global landscape interact every day. So sociology specifically kind of studies interactions between communities and people on the individual level as well through research methods and observation. And then global health is just studying how our health world looks like on from the global perspective. So how things like privilege and class and race all kind of are social determinants which affect healthcare.
And your call for the South Asian community to come together and to be a part of the solution is definitely commendable. So, what made you take this initiative?
Yeah, so I think a lot of South Asians have noticed that there are sometimes underlying sentiments of anti-blackness in our various cultures. And I believe that this stems from generations of British colonization, where the idea that white is best was kind of drilled into people's minds for hundreds of years. Unfortunately, I think that this has trickled down in kind of concepts of colorism through generations, where even South Asians of darker complexions face prejudice from people of their own culture. And this is highly problematic, as I'm sure many people have pointed out before. And another point that I wanted to bring up was the model minority myth. So, this is a sociological concept, and it was brought about in the 1960s, and it was initially used to describe Japanese Americans. And essentially, a model minority is I have the definition here, an ethnic minority demographic whose members are perceived to achieve a higher degree of socioeconomic success than the population average. And this is measured by income, education, criminality, law, and kind of like high marital or high family stability. And this sort of implies that Asians who have immigrated to the States have achieved the American dream. And this methodology is highly inaccurate, actually, and that's why it's referred to as a myth. And it really does downplay a lot of the struggles faced by so many immigrants of color, including South Asians. And it's significant to what I'm trying to do because the myth is used to pit minority races against each other. And it kind of has, in the past, driven a wedge between the South Asian community and the Black community. This extension of white supremacy plays a significant role in not only downplaying South Asians' racial struggles, but it also kind of creates underlying prejudice, like between different minority races. And I think that this is something that's really important for us as a community of color to tackle together.
And I think this initiative that you took to sort of combine all these problems that you have, seen, experienced, and, even studied, and bring about this initiative to essentially fight for justice now. And I did want to ask, from your experience of doing this, what has the response been from the South Asian community been so far?
Yeah, it's been overwhelmingly extremely positive, which is awesome to see. I think that a lot of us in the South Asian community do recognize this struggle for equity for the Black community. And it's really not about South Asians, and it's not about other minorities. It's about problems that that the Black community is facing at the moment. So for this reason, I think that members of the South Asian community have been really open and receptive to kind of taking a second and just thinking about prejudices or biases that are within our own culture and how we can actually take tangible and active steps to do what we can to stand in solidarity. So, yeah, I think overall it's been really positive. Of course, there will be people who question because not everybody has had the same experience, as experience is subjective. But overall, I think people are really trying to make an active effort to be allies at this time.
And I think it's even more incredible when you sort of put yourself out there like you did, given that there may be a negative response. And it's great to hear that there was an overwhelming positive response, but I think it really shows courage and bravery that you were able to, take that initial first step. And, I did want to ask, what would your advice be for the youth in our community and to our country at this time?
Yeah. So for two things, I feel like as a person of color and just being POC in America, I think it's our responsibility to stand up and to be kind of forces of solidarity, not only right now, but all the time. So I don't really view myself as being courageous or brave, but we all are trying to do what we can. And second, I don't know that I'm in a position to really give that much advice to our community or to the country as a whole. I am a person of color, but I'm not Black. So I strongly believe that my responsibility is to listen to Black voices and respond through actual action of solidarity and support. So yeah, I would say we should all recognize our privileges. I know that I'm extremely privileged. My parents are immigrants, but I hold so much privilege just by virtue of being born in this country as a citizen. And I think a lot of people kind of fail to recognize their own little privileges, which add up every day. Socioeconomic status is another privilege, which a lot of folks dance around. My parents are educated. I had the opportunity to pursue higher education, and this privilege is something that really shouldn't be ignored. So yeah, I mean, I faced undertones of racism, but my privilege kind of puts me in this bubble where I don't have to face systemic institutional racism every day. And I think as much as we can fight and struggle and petition and donate, we need to realize that this struggle isn't really about other communities of color at the time, and it's our responsibility to actively support the Black community to stand in power. So yeah, that's all I would say. It's just to hold our privileges accountable during this time.
Thank you so much, Sanchita, for your phenomenal work to create a peaceful and just world for all of us. And thank you so much for your time and answering all of our questions today.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.